Good afternoon. My name is Karen Cardwell. I'm a software consultant here at Maribel Technologies. I'll be presenting this week's training webinar review. We're going to talk about today items that will hopefully improve your processes and increase your sales. We do have one of our contacts here on the Magazine Manager available to answer your questions as well. So if you do have questions during the webinar, feel free to type them in your questions part of your webinar GoToMeeting, and they'll be answered as you ask the question. Also, the questions will be posted after the webinar in our help site for others to review and gain knowledge from the questions that you may have asked. Okay? So starting for today, we're going to look at several different items regarding sales, the order entry process, and different tips and tricks that you can use to improve your efficiencies. The first thing I want to look at, one moment please. Okay, my screen wasn't being shared. I apologize for that. The first thing we're going to look at today, and here I have a test Magazine Manager account up that we're used for training purposes, and we're going to use this particular site to do our webinars and walk through several items. In our home tab here, when you initially log in, we always want to call attention to this notification inbox. Now, it's important here to pay attention to the notifications that appear in your inbox. Now, you can be proactively alerted when crucial activities are occurring within the system, within the software, in addition to being notified by us here at Magazine Manager of any important updates that you need to receive. So as you see here, I just put some examples in here that we can review. You can get notified in addition to your callbacks and meetings, which of course are important, but your ad material being arrived or your ads being marked as done in the production stages. Some people may not be aware your user ID can be set up to receive this information as it happens real time. So in expanding these messages, you can quickly see when your ad was arrived, when it was marked done, if you are interested in receiving that information. Now, it is a management function within the employee editor to set these notifications as far as what the person's going to receive in their inbox. But there is several options within this setup that can be specified so that you have more information on a daily basis as far as what's going on with your accounts. Like I said, you have your callbacks here. When you expand, you have details regarding your call, your meeting, and all these can be managed here in the inbox as well. There's a new contract that was added on one of my accounts. I can quickly see, who added it, when it was added. You can link directly to that customer by clicking the hyperlink here, and then details of the order that was added, as well as payment information and invoice information. Do you want to be notified whenever a payment's been received and posted on one of your invoices? Your proposal information. So this is really good to stay on top of your accounts and stay proactive with any activities that are happening on your accounts or on your reps' accounts. So managers, make sure to go into the management employee editor area and update, and I can show you quickly in the employee editor. I'll just go into my own account here. On the right-hand side, the lower hyperlinks here are reps notifications. And you'll simply look here in the different modules or sections and decide, what do I want this person to be notified of in their inbox. Under My Clients, it's going to notify the rep of any activity on their own clients. Now, if you're setting up a management personnel or someone that needs to see information on any client, you would use the other sections, the accounts receivable section, the production section, the sales. That way, when you select Ad Done, the production manager will see when the ad's marked done for any account and not just their own. But this is where you're going to define what is being represented in that notification inbox. Okay, so once that's set up, this is where you'll see those information. And it is important to review this. I mean, you see it here every day, but some of it is important from information from us. We've recently put a couple messages here regarding an Internet Explorer 10 upgrade and some information we've gleaned on that. Whenever we have enhancements or updates that are going to be rolled out, we'll put an inbox notification for you here as well. Usually within these messages that we're sending to you, there's a hyperlink that will get you to additional information. Is it a link to a video or a document with questions and answers or details regarding the enhancement or the feature upgrade? You can print that out and reference it as needed. Okay, so just wanted to talk a little bit about this, make sure that you're aware of it, what it can do. You do get lists updated every day. You can page forward and back here on the bottom on the lower left. You can refresh this area by using the inbox refresh here. It's going to refresh the system and update with anything that's been changed. You can also manage this list by the options drop-down. And again, this is reviewed in one of our trainings, but you may not be aware of everything that can take place in here. You can print your messages out. You can send a new inbox notification internally to someone else within your organization just by quickly typing their name in the to option. It'll appear here. You can select that person and quickly send them a message. You can also manage your list so that it's easier to maintain by marking items as done. You can check off the items you've already followed up on and then mark those checked items done, or then mark all as done if you needed to do that as well. Also, there's different ways to filter and view the messages that you receive. So this options drop-down will help you manage this inbox notification area. Okay. Next thing we want to talk about today in our review is your CRM management, your customer relationships, using our search functions to get the best information out of the system. We're going to go into a little bit keeping your database clean, ways to identify duplication, to manually merge accounts, make sure that everything in your system is as clean as you possibly can get it. Okay. One of the first things we're going to look at today is going into the customer search area. And then I'm going to do a search here on myself as a rep. And again, there's many different ways here to search your database. Now, in our trainings, we go over all of these fields and the ways in which you can use them either singular or in conjunction with each other to pull up the most defined list of your customers or your prospects that you can work with. You have your demographic information on the top and additional search criteria on the bottom. You have advertiser, yes or no, does this person have a contract in our system? So you can further define what you're pulling up. Now, if I want to pull up a list of my entire list of who I'm assigned to as a rep, I can select the Show All Records on One Page function. Now, when I do this search, it's going to then bring up everyone in my contact list. Now, there's a couple of things that we can do here that will help you to manage your list. Now, since I selected Show All Records on One Page, it's automatically checked off all of these records. Now, an example of using this Show All Records on One Page, I can scroll down to the bottom here where we offer multi-contact actions. And the example I'm going to use today is using the Assign to Group function. Now, what I've done is I've created, and if I'm a rep and I don't have administrative access, I can request for an administrator to create a group for me, and I created the group called Karen's Top 10 Clients. So there's my top 10 clients. This is the group that I want to quickly and in a batch format assign my top 10 clients to. Now, I'm going to either review this list and unselect the ones, there's only 12 here, so I could unselect 2, and then these are my top 10 clients, and then quickly assign and add those to that group. Now, you may ask yourself, well, why is that important? Why am I going to use the group function anyway? It then makes it easier if I just want to pull up those customers to use that contact group, and now I can just quickly see those my top 10 clients. A. B, I can now take this list, and if I want or need to, again, come down to my multi-contact actions and create an export of this list. in an Excel spreadsheet. I would just name the list and click your export button. It's then, excuse me, I'm sorry, you do have to select the options. My screen is frozen here, one moment. Sorry about that, guys. One moment, please. Okay, I apologize for that. My browser was attempting to open another window there. But it's going to quickly open an Excel spreadsheet for you that you can save outside of the system if you need to manipulate that list, make changes, sort by different columns, see who has an email address, who's missing an email address. Just make sure that list is up to date as possible. You can use that export feature to generate that file outside of the system. Okay, now I'm going to go into one of my accounts here just to talk a little bit about another function that can be used to manage your customer. I'm just going to select a customer here, and down in the customer notes and activities area, as you know, you can use this area to indicate your activity with your customer in 4 different ways. By creating a note on the account, scheduling a call or a meeting, or placing a to-do item on this account. But something additional that you can do to further define your activity is for management or someone with administrative access to create and define activity types. Okay, and this is done in the management site setup area. But once you create the different activity types, they can be used here in this area, again, to further define what's taking place with this customer.
And that will be a good answer for everybody then.
And here are a few options as demonstration here in our test site. Is it an additional training demo that you're giving? What type of call are you making? So if you're selecting a callback, right, you might want to further define it. What kind of call is it? So in some of the reports that you can generate, and we're going to go over them in a moment, you can say not only how many calls were made, but how many cold calls were made. That might be something important to you as a rep or to you as a manager. I want to see how many cold calls my reps made this month, this week, this year, however you want to define that. And any of these additional, you can come in here and have control of what this is. And again, these are just some good examples of industry standards, right? I sent media kit, media kit follow-up after you sent it, production meetings, sales meetings. Was it a follow-up call? Again, it's just further defining your activity, but it is a good way to be more detailed and monitoring the team and how things are going with the customers individually. Okay, so this is a very good feature. Again, can be used within the customer record in the notes and activities area, but must first be defined in management site setup. And I can quickly go in there, show you website setup, activity types here under contact management. And you would just quickly say new and then define what type of activity that you'd like to track, okay, within your record here. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about here is different ways to maintain a clean database, making sure that what you have in the system is as clean as you can have it. And the first step in that, I think, goes through to your administrative setup, right? And again, I'm going to go in the website setup area. Most of our clients do use this area, but you certainly don't have to. But under contact management, you have the ability to set required fields. Okay, and you can come in here and determine out of the fields that we capture on contact entry, some of the basic fields for demographic information, what do I want to make a required field? Okay, and by checking it off, you can say, I'm not going to let anyone enter a contact and save it unless we receive this data. And usually it's going to be some type of identifier of the company and or the contact. And then you may want to indicate at least one form of communication with your customer. Is it the mailing address, a phone number, an email address? But it's good to have at least something in here so that you don't have contacts being added with just a name. or with not enough information in there that you can even do anything with it. So this is always a good thing to try to have just a few required fields on contact entry. That's a good tip there to keeping a clean database. Another thing here within your customer search, and I'm going to click here to refresh this search function. Prior to entering any new customers, it's always good to come in and search your database to see if your customer is already in the system, so you don't have duplication. Always come in here, use the different fields that you have available to you, use that wildcard symbol that we give you here to find anything in the system that may contain that word, right? Just to make sure that there's nothing already in there so you don't create a duplicate. It's going to bring up anything after your % sign that matches that. So if I put the, it'll bring up anything in the system that contains the word the. So then you can say, oh, the voting times is already here. I'm not going to add it as a duplication. Now I do have clients that will come in here and use many of these fields prior to entering a new customer using that wildcard symbol just to make sure it's not in here. Maybe you want to pull it by state or alphabetically. If you just put your A here and hit enter, it's going to bring up everything in alphabetical order, starting with your A's. So you can quickly review and see is something already in here. Also, again, you may want to use the show all records on one page, so you can just scroll down and see any duplication that may be there already. First and last name, by rep, however you want to use the search criteria to indicate your duplication. I have come in here and looked up KC, and I see that there are two similar accounts. Now this may be different accounts, but just by looking at it, I can see that this one has an S and this one doesn't. So it may be the same customer, but it is in here twice. I'm going to use this as an example just to go through a couple of activities that you can do on this contact to clean it up a little bit and merge it with the other. Now the first thing that you can do here is come into the second customer, and you're first going to want to make sure that there isn't any contracts or orders on this account. They will need to be moved to the other account. So going into the Contracts tab, you will have the ability to move the contract if you have been set up in the site-wide settings to be able to move contracts. This is a perfect example of that function in the site-wide setup, the ability to move a contract from one customer to another. If you have two of the same company and there are contracts on both, you can't delete one if there's a contract linked to it. So this contract here, I'm going to go ahead and move to the other account because I know I'm trying to combine these two. Okay, so I'm going to select the contract here. This particular one has been invoiced, so it's not going to let me move it. Okay, so I can selecting the contract here, you'll be able to click the Move Contracts option, then select the other customer that you want to move the contract to, and then simply in one click, it's going to remove the contract from this account and place it on the main account that you want the contract to go to. Okay, it'll be a quick way to remove it from your one customer and place it in the other one so that you can then delete this customer as needed. But before you delete it, you may want to take this subcontact and also move it over to the other customer. And that can be done in the Details tab. On the very bottom, you have Convert the Customer to a Subcontact. And clicking this link is good. It's going to confirm that this is something that you'd like to do. Then you're allowed, it's telling me now that I have invoices, so it's not going to let me move it. But at that point, you'd be able to select that other customer record and then convert this customer over onto that main account as a subcontact. Okay, so it's a quick way to move the customer over as well as the notes and calls and anything that's related to this one customer. So you've basically combined the two accounts, first by moving the order, then by moving the subcontact, and then you have them combined into one account. Okay. Another quick way to manage your customer list, and again, I'm going to pull up the contacts here, is to use something called relating your customers. Now, it's not really indicating duplicates per se, but maybe you have clients that are linked together by a business owner or some general company is the same. You want to indicate that they're together. You go into the one company record, scroll to the bottom of the main page, and you have an option down here to add a related customer. Then you can search your database for the related customer. You can type in a search. It'll bring up a drop-down. You would select the customer, the contact that you want to relate to this client, and then click Relate Customer. And it's a quick way to now say that Seventh Wave is also related to the magazine manager. And you'll have a list at the bottom of any related customers that are affiliated with each other. Now, as a sales rep, you can come into your client account and quickly see, oh, they're affiliated with these other companies, and then clicking on it, toggle back and forth to review the notes or see the activity, the previous records that have been placed on this account, or any contract history that's been transpired on the other account. Okay, so now we'll go back into our other one, and they're now linked to each other. So again, it's just a quick way to indicate and make a clean customer relationship here. Now, you may have in your customer search, one thing that you can do as well is reassign contacts from one rep to another rep. Now, this can be done for several reasons. If you have someone that's going on vacation or taking an extended leave or maternity leave, you can pull up a list of their customers and reassign them to another customer. So you're going to show all records on one page. And this is a management function, but it can be done using your customer search and quickly and easily in a batch format. So you don't have to one at a time go in and reassign it using just the rep drop-down. So I'm pulling up my entire list of this one sales rep's account. I can scroll to the bottom, and by default, it checked everyone here. But maybe I don't want to reassign them all to a person. I'm going to reassign them and, separate it by 3 or something like that. You can just uncheck any that you may not want to reassign. So you have just a list of who you'd like to. And then come down to the rep assignment here. And again, only administrators will have this function. So you're taking the list, and now I'm reassigning them to this rep. So by one click, I've now taken all of the accounts here and reassigned them from one rep to another. Now, this is not going to change the previous meetings or notes that were assigned to the previous person. It's just simply going to take the list and reassign the contacts to a new person that's taking over for the other one. I also have customers that change up their sales reps every quarter. They'll look at the activity and make some changes to accounts just to see if a new rep is going to make any difference on some of the ad sales. So now when I pull up my accounts that I just transferred into my account, I'll notice that instead of the 12 that I have 67 now because I just transferred all of those over from that other rep. Now, once you've done this, you may think, I also want to transfer some of the orders that are linked to these accounts. They're still linked to the old rep, whether it's a rep who's left your company or someone that, again, is just on an extended leave. You do have that option using the system in a batch format as well. Again, a management function listed under management. We have what's called an account reassignment tool. Now, everyone doesn't have this on their account by default, so if you don't see this straight away, you can ask your software consultant about it, and it can be added to your site. I'm going to quickly come in here and demonstrate how to use this tool. So now I'm going to say I just moved over the contacts So now I want to pull up the contracts that are listed to this rep. So it was Jacob's accounts that I moved over. So now I'm going to select him and view his accounts. So this is going to show me any of the accounts that were linked to Jacob that have orders on them by company. Okay, so it's listed here by company who has a contract on it. You can either select all and then, eyeball it and manage it this way by unchecking or checking what you'd like to transfer. You can also sort and filter here by year. So if you wanted to pull up all these accounts and then say, I'm just transferring the ones from this year or the ones from the future, you can use this date function for that. And then you're going to select from the bottom, who am I reassigning these accounts to? And that's who we assigned the contacts to, so we're going to pick the same rep. And then you have the ability to review individually that reassignment. So in addition to those companies, it's now giving me each line item or each contract that you have the ability to reassign. So again, you can select all and manage this list by unchecking if there's any that you don't want to reassign. You have the long list that you can review, check, uncheck, however you need to manage this. And then simply by clicking Finish, it's going to reassign all of those orders from the old rep to the new rep that you've just reassigned the contacts to. So it is a two-step process, but it gives you a little more control over the accounts. You're reassigning the orders, you're reassigning the contacts as two separate functions there. Okay, so I'm going to refresh my search here. Excuse me. The next item that we're going to review today is the ability in the system to do proposals, contracts. We're going to go over some specific functions there. And then we're going to go into one of my accounts here that I have as an example. In the customer record, as you know, you have a proposal and a contracts tab for each customer. In the proposals tab, it's going to show any existing proposals that you have on this client record. Now we're going to walk through and do a new proposal today. I'm going to pick my template. And then what I want to demonstrate for you today is the ability to skip the wizard. And there's a couple of other things as we go through it that I'm going to point out. But when we click down here to add line items to begin defining our order, it automatically will bring you to the new line item wizard. Now, we always strongly recommend that you use this new line item wizard initially to get familiar and comfortable with entering your orders and each step of the process, each selection that needs to be made. You can go through it and it steps you through and tells you what to do, gives you instructions in the wizard. Once you've done that and you're comfortable with it and you know what you're doing to create your order, there is a skip the wizard function here. I just want to demonstrate it for us today. Clicking on Skip Wizard, you can select whether it's a print or digital order. It's then going to bring you to the order entry screen. Basically in one screen, you have everything here available to you. But what's really important here is to make sure that you enter every detail of your order and not skip any of the processes. It is all available for you here, but it is easy to perhaps miss something if you don't select that tab or go through the function itself. So we're going to go over every option here. And the first is up in the left corner. You're going to want to initially select your product. Over to the right, you're going to select the rate card or pricing that's linked to that product. Once you've done these two options, it's going to generate your initial add detail information here. The next item here under the Details tab is to select the issues that are being purchased here, where you can select any issues that this ad is going to run in. And there are several different ways to select your issues, and you probably already know that by now if you're skipping the wizard, how to select these either one at a time. You can drag, you can enter a date range, you can use your control or command function to select non-consecutive months here. going to pick one. Then you would just define your individual ad details here. What's the ad size? You know, the ad color, the frequency discount that's available. Is there a premium position on this particular order, a special section? So it's the same things that you go through in the wizard. It's just available to you on one page. You have your additional production information here. There is on this main page an adjustment drop-down that you can make your adjustments to the pricing from here using your 3 options, your agency discount, adjusting off the rate card price, or selecting a defined adjustment. Also, once you've defined your details, you have the additional tabs. Now, initially, you should look at all these tabs and make sure there isn't any changes that need to be made. Are there any adjustments to this order? From here, again, you have the 3 options. Custom fields. Is there anything that I'm filling out here in this area? Are you using the forecasting reports or the probability percentage here to indicate your possible revenue on this actual proposal? Is this proposal going to generate as a contract? You know, you have your different percentages here that you can say. Is this a brand new customer and you're not so sure? Or, you know, is it someone that you're almost positive it's a done deal? This, again, flows over into forecasting report we're going to look at in a little while, so you have your custom fields. The rep on the account. Do you need to change this? Do you need to split the commission? Your billing contact. Now, by default, it's the billing person that's set on the account, but remember now you do have the option per order to make a change to that billing contact simply by coming here to the billing contact and clicking on the billing person that you want to be on this account. You also have here the ability, under multiple products, to place this ad order on additional products that are on the same schedule. So any other products that share a schedule with the current product that you're entering will be listed here for you to select. So in addition to my magazine, we're also running this ad in the calendar and in the survival guide. Okay, so once you've made all your selections, then you can save your order. Important part about this wizard is, you know, you may know, I'm not going to change the sales rep because it's always going to be the rep that's entering the order, the billing contact. I always want the person on the account. So you may need to not go into these tabs. So a quicker way to enter your order is just from here, you know, make your selections and save instead of stepping through the wizard. So some people do find this saves a couple of clicks, a couple of different steps in the process. But I just wanted to show and go over the different areas here that you have available to you that maybe you didn't realize were there. Okay, so I've made my selections, and I'm just going to go ahead and click this Save to save this particular order. Now, once I've generated this proposal in the system, it's going to bring me back to that proposal entry screen area. Now, another item that I'd like to point out from here is the tabs that we have available here in the proposal area in the upper left-hand corner. The line items tab by default is where you are when you go into the proposal screen. This is where you can make any edits to the individual line items. You can move them up and down. You can go into each line item if you needed to make a change. So if for the calendar, for the different products, if they have a change in the specifics, you can go in line item by line item and make that change. And people mostly see this. But you also have the other tabs here where you can make additional edits. Do you need to change the sales contact on this order? You have this tab as well. Do you need to change the sales rep? Here, you can make the change. And then the third tab here is your display setup area. And this is where you have the ability to edit this one particular proposal. Now, this looks a little bit like a template, and that's because it is, but this is the template for this one proposal only. So now from within this order, if you ever needed to, can come in, view your proposal, and say, you know what, there's some things that I want to change here. This ad notes doesn't have anything in it, so maybe I want to remove that field so it doesn't look unprofessional and show up as a blank area. Well, you can do that in that tab. So I'm going to close my preview, and from within this display setup area, I can go in to edit the line item block. For the print line items, that's the one we selected. And from within here, I can select the add notes and put a function on it called collapse, which basically means if there's no data in there, it's not going to show that column with blanks, which again, may be unprofessional. You don't want to show that with nothing in it. So I'm going to collapse that column. I'm going to save it. Done. And now when I view my proposal again, that column is gone. Again, you can do it to the production column as well. There's no production charge on this, so you don't want to show zeros, the barter as well, just to clean up the one. So the template that you used, may have production charge in it, and if the template doesn't have it collapsing, you can certainly do it on a one-on-one basis in your actual proposal. And again, that's just an example that I'm showing you here, but you do have the ability in here to make changes to this one proposal. And just be assured that it's not changing anything in the main proposal template at all. It's just making a change to this one order. I know some people do use this. They'll put, like as you see here, custom text. Then you can go in the edit mode for the lower text if you needed to type in or add any type of note here to this one proposal. You could just add it and then save. So, adding a little note area if you needed to type in some addendum or some additional information there. It's always good for that as well. Okay. Also, from this proposal area, under the proposal menu, I know this was reviewed in another one of the webinars, but it's always good to bring this up. You do have the ability to copy a proposal quickly. By clicking the copy proposal, you can pick the company that you'd like to copy it to. Once you start typing, it's going to bring up your list based on what you've typed dynamically here. So I'm going to pick the magazine manager and then copy proposal. It'll now take those line items and place them in the magazine manager account, as you see in the upper left. Now, an example of this is some of you are now starting to create proposals for packages, and I know that was reviewed in our last webinar. You set up all the line items, and it may be several or many line items that incorporate your package. You can set it up either on a main account or a test account in the system, and then just use that copy function to add it to any additional accounts that may have that similar or close to it, the same package. Because once I copy it, I'm here now in the Magazine Manager site, I can then make any edits that I need to make to this. So it doesn't have to stay exactly the same. Once you copy it, you can tweak it if there are any variations in the order process itself. Okay. Another item that I wanted to go over here within the actual proposal is the installment billing capability. And again, this is also a site-wide setting that you may or may not use. But for those of you that do, I just want to look at the process together. Clicking the pencil, the edit function on your line item will go into the ability to edit your line item. Again, you see your tabs here that you can make changes to. But in addition, we now have another tab for billing and installments. When I click here, you'll see your total price, that you're now be able to create installments on this actual dollar amount. You have several different options here in which you can create your installments. You want to split it monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly. You have several options. I'm just going to say monthly, the first day of the month. By default, it's going to give you a year. But for this, I'm just going to say, I'm going to give 7 months. I'm going to create. It'll automatically divide your dollar amount by the installment amount that you placed there and separate it by dollars and then your percentage as well. Once you've done that, you can review it and make edits here as needed. So if you needed to change the billing date, you have the option here. The dollar amount, based on what you've agreed on, you can change that as well. Any changes, just remember to click Save on the bottom. And now, for this particular line item, you've set up the billing to be separated into 7 installments of $100 each month. Now, when the invoicing is done in the system, it's only going to bring that $100 for the next month and not the whole $700. Okay, that does need to be done for each line item as needed. So if you want your whole total, you would have to go into each line item and set up that installment for each of those tabs here. Okay, so that's a quick way to set up installments on your proposals. That can also be done at the contract level. Okay. All right, for now, we're going to jump in and look at some reports in the system, and some sales reports, some different reports that, again, you may not be aware of, you may not know some of the details on. I've already brought up some just with specific criteria so we can look at them and talk about them a little bit. The first report I want to look at is the proposals report, and this is located under Reports, Sales, Proposals. It's also available on the left-hand navigation pane, quick links here, My Proposals. I'm going to click on that tab where I have the report. If you'll look on the top, you have your search criteria. You have the ability to pull by rep, by product. You have your product drop down here. Over to the right, and important to this report, you have the ability to say converted to contract, yes or no. Okay. You have also a created before and after. I just want to see everything that's been added in a certain month or the beginning of time to now. You know, this report is good because it shows what's still in a proposal status. So I pulled up for myself as the rep everything that's still in the proposal status. So as a sales rep, I can review this report and see, well, I still have these, you know, orders that are still in proposal status. Now, you know, in our system, a proposal isn't recognized as a sale, as revenue. It's not available for invoicing. It's not available for production. It's not available in your goals, to be represented in your goals, until it's converted to a contract. So this gives you a way to monitor and look at your proposals and make sure that they've been converted when needed. So if I've received a signature for this, you know, Test Inc., that's a lot of money. I want to make sure I come in here and convert that to contract straight away so that I'm getting recognized on my commission and on the reports, and it's available for production. So this report is a good way for both the rep and management to look and see what's still out there as a proposal, right? So if I don't pull this report by rep, if I pull it by all reps and just by a particular product, converted to contract no, it'll show me in the system everything that's still in the proposal status. So as a manager or, you know, even executive management, I can see and say, you know, look at how much money is here. You look to your bottom in proposal status. We have this much money that's, is it coming in? Is it not coming in? You know, do people need to come in here, follow up, get signatures, and convert these proposals to contract? So this is actually a very powerful report used in the proposal stage. It's only, again, going to show proposals if you use converted to contract no. You can look at the both status as well if you wanted to see what has been converted and what has not together on the report. You say all, and it's going to show you what has been converted and what's still in proposal status. So that's a big, you know, snapshot of, oh, I've already converted these, but these still need to be done. Again, by product and rep or however you want to pull this report. Okay, so that's the proposals report. Another report that's affected by proposals, and really the only other report, is our pipeline forecasting report. And this report is using that probability percentage that we looked at just when we did the order entry process. It gives you the ability, again, to see what hasn't been converted with the sales revenue, but this one also gives you the probability percentage breakdown. So you can pull the report using your search criteria here. There's more search criteria in this particular report than the proposals report itself. You have by product and issue. Again, a lot of people want to see by product and issue, what's my potential revenue? You can use the probability percentage here specifically. I want to see everything that's in a 90%. These we're almost certain they're going to close. So now I want to search, and then it's going to show you that. You can scroll to the bottom and see what's my potential revenue for that issue, product, date range, whatever search criteria that you use here above. So again, another powerful report for the proposals, seeing what potential revenue do I have in the system by rep or as a management report as well. Okay, another report I wanted to pinpoint here is the activity report, and this is directly relating to those activity types that we demonstrated a little earlier. By default, when you come into this report, it's going to pull one day, and it's going to show the activity for the day that you're on. You do have the search criteria here above to change that to either a predefined date range, or you can enter your own. I went back a year's time and searched on this just to see what gets returned. You have your reps over to the left. You have your columns for calls or notes, your meetings, any letters that are generated using the communications module here. It's basically a nice report to manage the activity for a rep or for management to monitor the day-to-day functions. Your cash sales are here, your barter. Now, what I want to point out is what we talked about earlier for activity types. You can then use this drop-down and even further filter your reporting by, how many cold calls are in the system, how many follow-up calls were done for this period of time. So this is going to give you a quick return of those activities based on what was tracked in the customer record. Okay, so this is a good report as well. On the bottom, you have a summary overview of what's contained in your search results here. Okay, another report here is the contract expiration report. Again, this is under reports, sales, contract expiration, and I apologize if I didn't just demonstrate the activity report is under here as well, under sales activity. Okay, so the contract expirations is going to pull whose contracts are expiring with this issue. So you can pull by product and issue or by your month here. So for April 2013, for all my products, this is my list of customers who are about to expire. Now, do I want to, copy and paste this into Excel, print it out, and work this list? By rep, you pull up your own, and this gives you a good overview of who's about to expire. Do I want to communicate with them and contact them to, re-advertise for the next year, the next issue, etc. So it's a good way to see who's about to expire and who I can call for renewal. Okay. Also under reports sales, we have our annual revenue stats here, and I'm going to jump to that report. This is a good report and a quick way to come in and see by product and year which of your customers have the most sales with you for that particular period of time. And again, you can search by sales rep if you want it. But it's just a quick way to see Walt Disney World is my top sales. This is how many pages, and this is the percentage here. It's just a quick overview of your customers here and the annual revenue stat. Okay. Now I want to look at a couple of the newer reports in the system that are available under the report suite. So anything that you see here with a star is some of our newer reports. These were just recently worked on. Again, these will be reviewed in future webinars as well. But for today's sales webinar, I did want to look at a couple of these specifically while we still have a few minutes here. Of course, the first for sales is the sales run sheet. So pulling up your sales run sheet using the new sales run sheet report, you have a lot of search criteria here for you. Maybe a little overwhelming at first, but again, your sales run sheet is quickly to see where you are with your total sales by issue or however you want to use this search criteria. Usually it's by product and issue, right? So in your search criteria above, you pull your product. You can further define by rate card or rep if you needed to. When you log in, your rep will be here as default. And then below here in this box is where you're defining your product and issue. Your product is here, but your issue is down here. Now this can be a little confusing, so just to talk about what happens here, you have 3 hyperlinks on the bottom for your products. Do I want to see my products that are linked to issues? Do I want to see my products that maybe are not linked to issues? Is it digital products? Is it things that are not on a schedule? Or do I want to include both in this return? So those are your options here that you should always come down here first and say, for this sales run sheet, I just want to see Survivor Magazine. For this particular issue, I know it's just anything on the issue. And then you can pick your issues from the drop-down by year, and then the individual issues will be available for you there. Your additional defined search criteria on the right, again, you have a lot of options. Do I want to just pull print or digital? If you use business units, you have the ability here to pull this report by business unit. Have we created a business unit that includes print, digital, many different products for our photography genre? You know, you can pull up by business unit as well. Your special sections. On your sales run sheet, you have the ability to decide whether you want to see the new items for today, for this week, for this month. And what's good about this is that it gives you a quick view of any new orders added today. So when you pull your report, you can see, oh, these 4 things I accomplished today. I got these orders in the system, and they're on my sales run sheet. You can decide whether or not to show barter, checking credit balance, what you're going to use net on the start date, or if you're using installments, you can select that option as well. And then how many results do you want to show? So I'm going to return this report, and just to show quickly what you see, your customer information, your product, the description of the order, the rep, the net amount. Now using your options here, you can show the totals. That'll give you a quick summary of your net sales by product, etc. So you can view that. You can also print the report just straight or with those totals that we just looked at. You can also export this to a CSV file. Now if you'll notice over to the left, you have a thumbnail here available to you when using the Digital Studio and mapping your PDFs onto your paginated pages. Your thumbnail will then be available for your ads. So you can quickly, as a sales rep, come in here and see, oh, you know, for this particular client, there's his ad straight away on the page and what it looks like. Okay. You can also, in this report, using the drop-down on the columns, decide how you want to sort it, by which of these columns, and then also, using the column option here, decide what is it that I'd like to see on my report. This is by user. So when I come in here and decide, okay, I want to see product, I want to see the description, I am using Digital Studio. So I want to see the page number. I want to see what page it's on, my customer, so I can quickly tell them. Do I need to see the rep? Well, I know it's always going to be me, so I don't need to see that. So you can just customize here what your return is on this report and specific to you. Once you make the changes of what you want to see on your report, you can go down to options and then save that column setup. So what that means is every time that I log in as Karen, this report's going to have the columns that I want to see. Now maybe my colleague logs in and he likes something different, so he can use this drop-down, select the columns that he wants to see, and save it as his own. Okay, so I know we're coming up against time. I hope that the information today helps you in your daily processes. If you have any questions based on what was covered, certainly feel free to respond to the webinar, or you can contact your software consultant. There is one last thing that I want to show you that's a little bit exciting, and it's in the customers. So I'm going to go in search, and this is something that recently was released. It's going to be part of our update. That's the next update that's happening in a couple months. But I just want to show you here, I apologize, I want to go into the right contact here. Okay, so in my Casey Rocket example, I have an ad agency linked to this account, Alexander Agency. Now maybe they've been my agency last year or the year before, but now I have a new agency that I want to link to this account. Certainly you can go into edit mode, scroll down to your agencies, and add additional agencies, okay, by add agency. But what you can do now that wasn't available before was you can change the default agency. So instead of Alexander, I now want my Shelby ad agency to be the default. So I can change this. It's going to prompt me to confirm, are you sure you want to make this agency the default? It also is going to let me know that any invoices set to the default billing will show the new agency default. Okay, and what this means is that if you change the default and then you have to come in and reprint an invoice that may have been linked to the Alexander, it's going to now show the new agency for Shelby. So you would need to be aware of that before you do that reprinting of that invoice. You can always come in and edit it again, make it Alexander, print out your new invoice or reprint your old one, excuse me, and then switch it back to the default of Shelby. But this was requested by many different customers for us to have this ability. So we're excited about its release. And any feedback that you have on this, certainly let us know. But it is something that we're happy to provide you with. Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time to participate or listen to our session. Again, like I said, submit your feedback. Contact tech support if you need any assistance with anything technical. And remember, in our help site, we will be providing the questions from today's session as well as the recording of the webinar if you need to review it again or advise anyone else to go ahead and check it out. Have a great afternoon, and we'll talk to you guys soon.